Hi everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to make these Crochet Grinch slippers. And the materials that you're going to need, there is a link in the description below for all of the materials that I've used. And if you need to have any of them shipped right to you, to your door, you can order them right off my website. I've ordered all materials off of Amazon and I've included all the links in the description below. So I've used two different types of yarn, not on the one slipper. I've used one type of yarn for each slipper, but the two types of yarn that I have used for this pattern are, I've used both the Bernat Super Value and Craft Smart Value yarn. Now I've used a 5mm crochet hook, a 4mm crochet hook. I've also, you're gonna need green, black, yellow yarn. You're going to need possibly, I would recommend a stitch marker, a pair of scissors, measuring tape, a yarn needle, and some polyfill or whatever you want to stuff the Grinch head with. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, as we're getting started, I just want to point out that the sizes, you can find the written pattern for these slippers. There's a link in the description below. Now, the sizing that I'm going to be doing in this video is for an age 4 to 6. If you would like other sizing by following stitch counts or anything like that, you can get the written pattern that offers the stitch counts and row counts for child size 2 to 3, 4 to 6, as well as adult sizes in a women's 8 and 9 and a men's 10 and 11. I do also in the written pattern reference moments of where you can take sizing, and I will also do that here in the video tutorial. If you wanted to make other sizes, there is a link to the size chart that I recommend in the description below as well. So you can make these slippers for any size, okay? So let's go ahead and get started now. So we're gonna start with our 5mm crochet hook and with making a magic ring. So to make your magic ring, let me just slow this down for you. You're just gonna wrap the yarn around your 4 fingers and drape it over like this, kind of like a little cross. You're gonna get your hook, put it under that first piece, which is the bottom piece of the yarn, and over the next one, and just scoop up a loop onto your hook. Carefully pull your hand out there, pick up your working yarn, and chain 1. Now you're gonna wanna be careful to work over both pieces of the yarn here, okay? And for the child size, now right now what we're gonna be working on is it's the circumference around the foot. So we're starting from the toe and building the slipper up, okay? So just keep that in mind. I will reference for you for the starting off here that if you are doing an adult size, I recommend doing your half double crochet 8 times into the magic ring, okay? Right now for the child size, we're doing it 10 times. And the reason, if you're following the written pattern, the reasoning is we increase with the adult one further. The child one, we're only increasing 1 time, okay? So I do recommend if you're making a size other than age 4 to 6, you might want to go ahead and get that written pattern to follow along with the video here. But anyway, so let's go ahead and start. We have our magic ring, we did our chain 1. Again, we're working on a child age 4 to 6 size right now, okay? So we're gonna work 10 half double crochets into our magic ring. So you're gonna yarn over, push your hook into the magic ring, yarn over, pull up a loop. So now you've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And you're just gonna go ahead and repeat that 10 times into your magic ring, being very careful to work over both of those pieces of yarn. Okay, so go ahead and work that 10 times and then come back. Okay, so now that you've got that 10 times here and you've worked over both of the pieces, you're just gonna grab that little short piece and pull that ring closed, being careful that it doesn't overlap your work anywhere, and you close that ring up. Okay. Now finding your chain 1 space there, you're gonna close this round with a slip stitch in the chain 1 space. You're just gonna push your hook in, yarn over, and pull right through both loops on the hook. Okay. Now we're gonna begin our next round with a chain 1. Go ahead and grab your stitch marker if you wanna use one. and put it into that chain 1 space. Okay, we're going to half double crochet 2 times into every stitch around. So you're just going to yarn over, push your hook right through that first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. And we're going to do that again in the very same stitch. Okay, and now we're going to continue on working 2 half double crochets into every single stitch all the way around. So by the end of this round, you should have a total of 20 stitches. Okay, so you're going to keep going 2 half double crochets in every stitch all the way around. In this chain 1 space, you're going to close your round with a slip stitch, chain 1, and then come back. Okay, so now that you finished that round and you closed with a slip stitch and did your chain 1, you can move your stitch marker up to your new chain 1 space. And now we're going to go ahead, and if you see that starting to open up in the middle there a little bit, that's okay. You can just pull it closed, and we will secure that at the very end. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead with our next round here. We're going to work 1 half double crochet into every single stitch all the way around. Just simply 1 half double crochet in every stitch all the way around. So by the time that you finish this round, you should still just have 20 stitches. All right, so you're going to go ahead and work your half double crochets into every stitch all the way around. Every round that you work, you are going to close each round with a slip stitch into the chain 1 space that you started off your round with. And you're going to start each new round with a chain 1. Okay. So we're almost back to the beginning here. Get some more yarn. All right. So once you finish this round of your 1 half double crochet into each stitch, I'm just going to finish off this round with you here. Okay, so there's our chain 1 space. We're just going to go ahead, close with our slip stitch into that chain 1 space to end that round, chain 1 to start a new round. Okay, you're just going to move that stitch marker up to your new chain 1 space. And now before we move on to the next step, I just want to point out, okay, as I said, right now you're working on the toe and we're building the slipper up the foot, okay? You would want to be taking a measurement if you're making a size other than a child age 4 to 6. You're going to want to be working these next rounds. I'm going to tell you the step in a minute here, but you're going to want to be continuing working until you reach half of the measurement for the size that you're working on. Okay, so if you're referencing my size chart, you're going to look at the size that you want to work on and see what the length of that slipper is. And you're going to work these rounds to half of that size. Okay. So in this case, I'm working on a child age 4 to 6 right now. So you're going to be working 1 half double crochet in every single stitch around, close of the slip stitch, chain 1. We've just done 1 round. We need 8 total. So you're going to go ahead, if you're working on the same size as me, and you're going to do 7 more rounds of just working 1 half double crochet in every stitch all the way around. Go ahead and do that for 7 more rounds, or however many rounds that you need to get to half of the measurement that you need for your slipper, okay? And then come on back. All right, so now that you finished working the rounds you need to get to half of the measurement for the slipper size that you're working on, we're going to move on to the next step here. We're going to be working on the part that's going to go just over the heel and starting off the ankle area now. Okay, so right now we're going to be working 1 half double crochet into each of the next 10 stitches. Now that is the instruction for a child age 4 to 6 because we have been working with 20 stitches around. So whatever size that you're working on right now, you are going to be working to half of this round basically. Okay, so again, in our case, that's 10. So we're going to work 1 half double crochet into each of the first 10 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? Chain 1 and turn your work. All right? So we're going to work 1 half double crochet right back down each of those stitches that we just did. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Chain 1 and turn your work. So you're going to repeat that last row. If you're working on a child age 4 to 6, you're going to repeat that last row 7 more times. You're going to want the 8 total from this row that you just did. Don't worry about the very first one, this one here. Okay, so you're going to do this 7 more times. If you're working on another size, basically the rule of thumb is the amount of rounds that you just did. Okay, so I'm working on a child age 4 to 6. So the step before this, where we were working to half of our foot size, we worked for child age 4 to 6. If you remember, I had said we're going to work 8 rounds total. Okay, and now we're doing 8 rows of this total. So basically, however many rounds that you did for this part right here, that's how many you're going to do right now for your rows. Okay, so again, child age 4 to 6, you're going to go ahead and do 8 total. So 7 more. All right, because this very first one that we did, just to establish this little fold piece, that doesn't count in the row count right now. It goes from the one that we just worked. All right, so 7 more times if you're working on a child age 4 to 6, and come back when you're done. Okay, so now that you've finished your rows here, look at how your slipper is, because we're gonna close this up and work our seam that goes down behind the back of the heel and ankle there. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're not doing it so that half of your slipper is inside out and half it's not. Like if you go and fold it like this right now to work up the seam, you've got your slipper here, that's the right way, and this is going to look inside out. So it's really important to note that right now. You're going to want to fold the back, lining up the short edges here, being sure that you have this part working inside out. Okay, so when you get to this last round here and you do your chain 1, fold your work in half, lining up those edges, and you're going to push your hook through that first stitch here on one side and right through, making sure to line it up evenly to the stitch on the other side, because we're going to close this up and make a seam. So you're working through both sides right now. And we're going to close with a slip stitch. So you just push your hook right through, yarn over, and pull right through both of the loops on your hook there. Okay, and we're going to do that again, making sure to line up. It could be a little tricky lining up these stitches, but you want to line them up and be working through both sides there to close up that seam and right through to the heel. And then you could do a chain to fasten it off. You can leave it like this to fasten it off, whatever you prefer. I like to do that little chain, just makes me feel that little bit extra secure. Give yourself a bit of a tail end. And you're just gonna grab your scissors. I don't wanna cut my slipper. And fasten that off. Pull the rest of that yarn through. And you can flip that around to reveal your slipper shape so far. Just tuck that in, we'll hide the tail ends at the end. All right. So now what you're going to do is you're going to reattach your yarn at the corner of your little ankle piece here that we're working on, okay? So pick your corner, whether it's this side, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Get your hook in there. Now this part I want to make a little mention of, okay? Because I don't want you to throw yourself off when we're working this next round, trying to figure out how many stitches you should have, and if you're calculating based on how many rows you did and how many here, you might get a little thrown off when you realize that you're going to have a couple of extra. It's because we're going to be stitching into the corners as well. Okay, so For this next round, we're going to be just half double crochet evenly all the way around, just into each stitch around, okay? So here I realize we don't have actual stitches, so you're just going to be crocheting evenly around. I like to just line it up with the rows, okay? So you're going to be starting in a corner, and you're just going to, and I'm going to do it with you right now, but I'm just to explain and make sense of it, you're going to half double crochet into each stitch, and then you're going to continue going evenly all the way around till you get back to the start here. And then we're going to close with a slip stitch and chain one to start our next round. These are going to be working in the rounds again. So I would recommend grabbing your stitch marker. So let's make our starting loop to reattach. You could just wrap the yarn around your finger, pull up a little bit of that bottom piece and push a bit of the top bit through and get that onto your hook. All right, pull that through and chain one. I love a stitch marker. Just makes it a lot easier on me to keep track of where I'm ending, where I'm starting, especially once you get on a roll. I don't know if you guys have ever done that and tend to skip right over your chain space. I've done that. All right, so we're gonna half double crochet once into each stitch all the way around, and the parts that we don't have stitches right now, you're just gonna half double crochet evenly. And it's the best idea to just line it up with the rows as best you can. Okay? Make note of your stitch count because you're going to be making another slipper. So however you've half double crocheted evenly, whatever stitch count you've ended up with, just make sure that the other one is the same. Okay, so you see what I mean here? It can get a little bit tricky, like when you're trying to determine where to stitch when you don't have any to go off of. I just like to line it up with my rows as best as I can. See? I just wanted to show you that part so that it's just not, you know, stressing you out too much to try and see where to work your stitches when you don't have any, technically. All right, so you're just going to keep going all the way around evenly. When you get back here, you're going to close with a slip stitch, chain one, and come back. All right, so for this next step, now that you've finished that round all the way, close the slip stitch, chain one, you're just going to continue on working one half double crochet into every stitch around, close a slip stitch, chain one. All right, you're going to go ahead and do that for 2 more rounds and then come back. Okay, so now that you've finished those rounds, we're going to go ahead and decrease. We're going to start our next round here. So we're going to begin our next round with, we're going to half double crochet decrease twice. All right, so basically we're going to be taking these first 4 stitches and we're going to be turning them into 2. All right, so let's work our half double crochet decrease, the first one here, because we have to do it 2 times. Let's start with the first one. So you're going to yarn over your hook, push it into that first stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Okay, you've got 3 loops on your hook right now. You're going to yarn over and go right into that very next stitch. Yarn over, pull up another loop. You'll now have 5 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 5. And we're going to do that one more time because we have to half double crochet decrease twice. Yarn over, go into that very first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go into the next stitch beside it, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops on your hook. Now, depending on the size that you're working on, you're going to need to work 1 half double crochet into each stitch across the front. Be mindful of where your corner is, even if you want to fold and place a stitch marker or something. And because you're going to have half double crochet decrease twice again. All right, so I'm going to be working 1 half double crochet across the front of my slipper here. So 1 half double crochet into each stitch, and for me, because the size I'm working on, it would work out to be the next 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you're working on a different size, don't get too bent out of shape for how many. Just, you could even realistically eyeball, fold it in half, and just make sure that your decreases are both at the front corners of your slipper. All right, so now we're going to work 2 half double crochet decreases again. So you're going to yarn over, push your hook in the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go in the very next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 5 loops on your hook. And we're going to do 1 more half double crochet decrease here. Okay. And then you're just going to continue around your slipper, working 1 half double crochet into each of your remaining stitches all the way around. Now, depending where you attached your yarn when you started your ankle rounds, if you attached it over here, you might be looking at it going, okay, but I'm not working across the front, I'm working across the back. It's fine. As long as the decreases are evenly spaced, it doesn't matter. So whether you are starting here and did your 2 half double crochet decreases and had to work across the front of your slipper and then do another 2, or if you started here and you did your 2 half double crochet decreases and worked around the back of your slipper and did your 2 half double crochet decreases and are finishing here, it's fine. It's the same result. So don't stress yourself out about that. That's okay. It doesn't matter. As long as those 2 half double crochet decreases are evenly spaced to be at the 2 corners of the ankle there, that's all that really matters. Okay, so we're just working our half double crochets into each stitch, finishing off the remaining stitches of our slipper round here, our ankle round. Okay, when you get back to the beginning here, you're going to close with your slip stitch and you're going to chain 1 to start the next round. Go ahead and move that stitch marker up to start your next round here. All right, and now what you're going to do is work 1 half double crochet into each stitch all the way around, close with a slip stitch, chain 1. You're going to go ahead and do that for a total of 4 rounds total, okay? So for 4 rounds total, you're working 1 half double crochet in each stitch around. Go ahead and do that and then come back. Okay, so now that you've finished those rounds, you'll have closed with a slip stitch. You're just gonna fasten that off. You can take your stitch marker out, flip your slipper inside out. Oops. Okay, and we're going to use a yarn needle to weave all of our tail ends in. Okay, and I just weave them in and out of some of the stitches on the inside, just a few to secure it. And then fasten that off. So go ahead and do that with the rest of your tail ends and then come back and we'll move on to the Grinch head. All right, so now that you've got your little slipper done, you've hidden all your tail ends in, you can start to see your project taking shape. I like to fold the little ankle down to make a cuff, but you can even leave it up and have it like a boot slipper. So you can go ahead and just set that aside and let's go ahead and start on the Grinch head. All right, so now we're gonna make our Grinch head and you're gonna need a 4mm crochet hook, same yarn we've been using because it's virtually impossible to match green shade, and of course we want our Grinch head to match our slipper. So we're going to begin with a magic ring. You're going to wrap the yarn around your fingers like this, just draping it kind of over and across. Okay, you're going to get your hook, go under that first bit over the top and gently pull up your loop. Carefully pull your hand out and pick up your working yarn, and you're going to chain 1. Go ahead and put your stitch marker if you like to use one. And we are going to single crochet 10 times into our magic ring. Just going to push your hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so you're going to grab that little piece here, pull your magic ring closed, and close that round with your slip stitch into the chain 1 space. Chain 1 for your next round. Go ahead and move the stitch marker up. So for this next round, you're going to work, not half double, 2 single crochets into each stitch all the way around. So we've gone into that first one there. We're going to put our hook right back in the same stitch and work another single crochet. And we're just going to continue on working 2 single crochets into every single stitch all the way around. So go ahead and do that all the way around, close of the slip stitch, chain 1, and come back. If your middle is opening, don't worry, just pull that closed and we'll close that up at the end. All right, so 2 single crochets in every stitch around, close of the slip stitch in your chain 1 space, chain 1 and come back. Okay, so now if you're working on an adult size, you're gonna increase one more time. Again, I do have those instructions, the written instructions in the link in the description below. I do want to note that if you are working on a child size, you're going to want to skip to the next step. You're not going to increase anymore. Okay, so I'm just going to give you the steps right now for between an adult and a child size. For an adult size, you're going to go ahead and do one more round of increasing. So you're going to single crochet twice in the first stitch, and then once into the next, twice, once, all the way around, close of the slip stitch, chain 1. That's if you're doing an adult size Grinch head, okay? Now, I'm working on a child size, so I'm gonna skip that step, and I'm gonna go right on to the next one, where I'm just gonna single crochet once into each stitch around, then you're gonna close with a slip stitch and chain 1, okay? So, for a child size, you're moving on to this step right now. For an adult size, you're just going to pause the video. You're going to go ahead and do one more increase. So 2 in the first stitch, 1 in the next, 2 in the first stitch, 1 in the next. Then you're going to come back and move on to this step right now. Right now, we're going to be making 1 single crochet into every single stitch all the way around. When you get back to the beginning, you're going to close with a slip stitch and you're going to chain 1. You're going to do this for a total of 4 rounds if you're working on a child size. But if you're working on an adult size, you're going to do that for 7 rounds. Okay? So go ahead and do your rounds of single crochet and then come back. Again, that's 1 single crochet in every stitch around, close a slip stitch, chain 1. You're doing that for a total of 4 rounds for a child size or 7 rounds for an adult. Okay, so now that you finished those rounds, we're going to go ahead and work on the next step. Now, the stitches that we need to do, again, are the same for both child and adult size. The amount of rows is different. Okay, so bear with me here while I explain this to you. So we're going to single crochet 1 time into each of the first 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to single crochet 2 times into that following stitch. Okay, then you're going to do once into each of the next 5, 2 into the following. You're going to do that all the way around. For an adult, it's going to finish off completely evenly because you would have had that extra round of increases. For a child size, when you get around to here, you're going to notice that the last set that you do where you're going to do 2 into one of the stitches, you're only going to have 2 following to end off the round. You won't have a complete 5. That's okay. and then close with a slip stitch, chain 1. So you're going to go ahead, continue on with this alternating pattern. So 1 into each of the first 5, 2 in the following, 1 into each of the next 5, 2 in the following. If you're working on a child size, you're going to do it for a total, which is including this round, a total of 2 rounds. If you're working on an adult size, you're doing it for a total of 3 rounds. So go do that and then come back. Okay, so now for this next step, you're just going to go ahead and work 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. And then when you get around to the beginning, you're going to close with a slip stitch, chain 1. For a child size, you're going to do that for a total of 2 rounds. For an adult size, you're going to do it for a total of 5 rounds. Okay, so just 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around, close the slip stitch, chain 1. 2 rounds total for child size, 5 rounds total for adult size. Go ahead and do those rounds and then come back. All right, so now that you finish those rounds, we're going to begin our decrease rounds. Okay, so we're going to single crochet once into each of the first 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to do a single crochet decrease. So we're going to take these 2 stitches and work them together to make 1 stitch. So you're going to push your hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop. Then you're going to go into that very next stitch, push your hook through, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So now you've got 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull right through all 3. And then we're going to go ahead and do 1 single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. 4, 5. And then we're going to work another single crochet decrease. Put your hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop. Push your hook through the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. You're going to continue alternating all the way around between your single crochet decreases and single crocheting in the next 5. When you get back to the beginning, you're going to close with a slip stitch, chain 1, and come back. Okay, so for this next round, we're going to single crochet once into each of the first 2 stitches. And then we're going to single crochet decrease. Once into each of those next 2 stitches. And single crochet decrease. You're going to continue alternating like this all the way around. Close with a slip stitch, chain 1, and come back. Okay, so now that you finish that round, just pull a little bit out so that you can set this aside. You can start to see your Grinch head taking shape here. And we're going to want to start to work on some of the accents before we completely close this up, okay? So set that aside for now, and we're going to work on some of the accent pieces. So what you can do is you can just cut a bit of a long bit there. You're not going to need too much more yarn to finish off. Fasten that off and put it aside. Okay, then we're going to work on the hair. So we're going to cut just a few strips of yarn. Doesn't really matter how long because you can always trim it. A little longer is easier to work with, but go ahead and cut 4 pieces. And this is not gonna, the strips that you're cutting right now is not gonna determine the length of the hair. So make it a little longer than what you think you're gonna need. Just makes it easier to work with. Okay, so you've got 4 strips there. You're gonna fold them in half. And then you're just gonna cut right down the middle. So now you've got 8 strips, set 4 aside for the other slipper. All right, so grab your Grinch head, and we're just going to be wrapping the yarn, literally folding it in half around a stitch and double knotting it. Okay, so just grab one of your pieces, thread your yarn needle. You can do it however you want to. This is just personally how I find it easiest. Okay, and then you want it to be as much in the middle as possible because it's like Grinch just has this kind of like tuft of hair on top of his head. So you're just going to pull that about halfway through. Okay. And then you're just going to tie it in a knot. And then again. All right, so you're going to go ahead and do that for all four pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just evenly around your little circle there. And then you're just going to separate the strands of yarn to get that look of the hair that you saw in the picture of these slippers that I would have shared. Okay, you're just going to literally just pull it apart. Like that. Let it untwist. All right. And that's how you're going to get that look of the hair. And don't worry about trimming it or anything yet. Go ahead and do all 4 strands, pull them all apart, and then come back. All right, so now that you've finished that, you've kind of got this like wild hair, but Grinch sort of has it like sitting in a tuft on top of his head, right? So what I do in that case is you can just grab a little piece from the front, grab a little piece from the back. This one did not get fully separated. There we go. All right, grab all of it in a little tuft, pull these 2 together, crisscross them, and then go around to the other side and tie them together. And that just gives it more of like a little tuft at the top of his head. Like that. And if you want it a little shorter, you can trim it a bit. All right. I'm just giving the tail end from the start of my work a little tug, just because I've been pushing in and out of the middle of that opening on the top of the head. And there we go. All right, so now we'll move on to the next piece or the next step here in our pattern. Now this, we're going to be working on the collar of our Grinch. This part is a little bit, it's a little bit of a tedious task the way that I do it here, but it's so worth it to get that effect. So we're going to be doing the same technique we did with the hair, the way that we attached it, tying it in a double knot, and then splitting the bits of yarn. Now, if you're following along to the written pattern, I recommend tying a piece through each front loop all the way around. You don't have to do each front loop. You can skip 1 or 2. And then if you want to fill in gaps or anything, go ahead. But basically, you're just going to go ahead doing the same thing. Doesn't matter how long the strands are. Cut it to your desired length. Okay. And since this one's easier, you don't need to use the yarn needle because you're not going right through the whole work where you just want to kind of scoop through. You can use your hook and you're just going to go right in the front loop. Okay, because we're going to need the back loop available. So just in the front loop of your stitch there. Okay. And you're just going to pull it halfway through and then double knot it. And then split your strands. Okay. And you're just going to keep doing that all the way around. You can split it however many times you want to. If you want to split the split strands, I personally do. It's a bit tricky. And it is a little time consuming, but again, it's totally worth it to get that effect. Go ahead and work them all around. Once you have your collar totally done, then you could do your little trimming. But I always like it just to be that little bit longer so it's easier to work with. But you don't have to. You can make it a little shorter, just however long you want. So go ahead and work on that till you're happy with your collar. Again, you don't have to do it in every single front loop. You could do every other. I personally, I've done them every other just to save time. It still gets a really nice effect. And for this one, I will be doing every other. Okay, so go ahead and work on that and then come back. Okay, so now that you've finished that collar, You can go ahead and set this aside for a minute and grab your yellow yarn. We're going to start on the eyes. Okay, so with your yellow yarn, you're going to make your starting loop and get that onto your hook. For a child size, we're going to make a chain of 6. For an adult size, we're going to make a chain of 12. So I'm working on child, so I'm going to chain 6. So yarn over, pull through your loop. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to attach the last chain to the first one with a slip stitch to create a ring. All right. You're going to fasten that off with a bit of a long tail end and pull it all the way through. We're going to position this on the Grinch face the way that you'd like, okay, where you want the first eye to be, and you're going to use your yarn needle to sew it on using the tail end, okay? So I'm going to show you. You're going to position it on where you want it to go on the Grinch face, all right? Okay, so you're just going to get your yarn needle. And we're going to use the tail here to sew on the Grinch eyes. Look where the seam is, position it wherever you want. Now with the adult size, you're going to have a much bigger gap in the middle than the child size. And you're just going to be using your tail end and kind of stitching, weaving it through to fill it in, okay? But I'm going to show you here. So just push it in to get it started off. I'm not great at sewing, so don't mind me here. I haven't got like the best techniques for sewing. I'm not a sewer. All right. And we're just going to go ahead and attach that on. You want to kind of try and have that diagonal look, right? He's got kind of that very troublesome look to him. All right. So you're just going to go ahead and continue on with your yarn needle, just sewing that on. Like I said, with the adult size, you're going to have a gap in the middle. So after you finish sewing around the edge to get that on, you're then just going to go over, like push, weave in and out, just filling in the gap with your yarn, sewing it until it's all full with yellow, okay? With the child size, as you can see, there is not a gap, so it's okay. You're just going to sew this on and then come back. With the adult size, you're just going to continue on filling it in, just with sewing your stitches over and through, to make the nice tight lines to fill it in. All right, and then come back. All right, so once you've got that yellow bit positioned and on there how you like, go ahead and do the same for the other side and then come back. Okay, so for the black pupil of the eye that we're going to work on, you're just going to cut a strip of black yarn. We're not going to crochet this piece. We're going to just sew it on because it is such a small piece that if you do crochet it, to be honest, it can just looks a little too bulky, in my personal opinion. Anyway, this is just how I've done it, and I've really been happy with the results. So you're just going to push your yarn needle in close to the edge of the yellow, but not completely over it, because you do still want a little bit of that yellow to show. And you're just going to go ahead and weave through to create a bit of a pupil there on the bottom. So just kind of in like this back and forth motion. It's a little tricky, so we don't want to pull up the work we did. Just very gently. You don't want to pull it too tight because you don't want to mess up the shape of the eye that you've created. So you're just going to go ahead and keep on weaving it. Can you see that okay? Weaving it in and out. Again, it can get a little tricky at this bottom bit because you want to make sure that you have a little bit of that yellow showing. It does make a difference. Do it however you want. I mean, it's yours, whatever makes you happy. And then just go up the side to sort of round it off. See how it's kind of like an odd little triangle shape there? So if you just go up and weave it down to the bottom piece of the black there, just to round it off a bit nicer. Okay, and I'm happy with that, right? And if you want to continue, or if you want to fill a little bit more on the other side, you can. I'll do that just to round off that shape just that little bit better. Okay, pull it through. There we go. All right, so once you're happy with that, you're just going to go ahead and poke it into the middle, pull it, feed it through the inside, and repeat the steps for that other eye, and then come back. All right, so now that you've got your eyes done, for the nose, it's just a tiny little stitch, just 2 little lines for nostrils. You're just going to go in here and you're literally just going to do pull that right through. Okay, if you could see that there. I know it's hard because the yarn is dark, but I'm literally just going right over and just making a little line where the nose would be. See that there? Just a little line. You can put 2 if you want to, or you can do them 2 side by side like little nostrils, 1 across. Can you see that there, just between the eyes there? Okay. Now for the eyebrows, you can still even use the same yarn that you've got, or even the mouth, whatever. You can cut a new strip, but all you're gonna do is, using your yarn needle and your black yarn, you're just gonna sew on just a piece of yarn, piece of black yarn for the shape of the mouth, and then just 2 little lines going downwards, of course, because Grinch always has a scowl. You're just using your yarn needle and a piece of black yarn to go ahead and sew those on, and then come back and we'll finish up. Okay, so now that you've finished your Grinch face and all the little accent bits, we're gonna finish off and close this up. So you're just gonna go ahead and get your loop back in that chain space. Okay. Now we're gonna single crochet into the back loop all the way around, because we tied our collar in the front loop, right? So you're gonna push your hook over and go just into that back loop. And we're gonna single crochet. It's a little bit tricky because the collar now, but all right, single crochet into all of the back loops all the way around, and you're gonna end the round and start the next one the same way as we have been doing. So when you get back to the beginning, you're just gonna close with a slip stitch in the chain 1 space, chain 1 and come back. Okay, so now that you've finished that round of working single crochets in all the back loops and you've closed with a slip stitch in chain 1, we're gonna begin this next round with a single crochet decrease. A single crochet in the next stitch. Single crochet decrease, single crochet in the next stitch. And you're just going to go ahead and keep on repeating this all the way around, close with a slip stitch, and then come back. Okay, so now that you've finished that round, before we completely close it up, you're just going to grab whatever stuffing of your choice. I'm using polyfill. Again, there is a link in the description below to all the materials I've used, so you can have them shipped right to your door if you're missing any at all. And you're just going to go ahead and stuff this, and then we're going to fully close it up. All right, stuff it really good so it holds that shape. Okay. And And now you're just going to go ahead and do one more round like the one we just did, where you're working a single crochet decrease, single crochet in the next, single crochet decrease, single crochet in the next, all the way around, close of the slip stitch and come back. Okay, so after that last round, it's pretty much all the way closed up. You're just going to pull out a bit of a long tail end, fasten that off, pull it all the way through. Make sure your collar is out of the way here. Grab your yarn needle. Okay, and you're going to weave your yarn needle in and out of all the stitches all the way around, in and out, in and out. Okay, and then you're just going to pull to close it. And then I just like to go ahead and make sure it's really secure and push it through that middle and out the other side a couple of times. And then go one last time. And before pulling right through, go in the middle of your little loop you've got here to create a knot. And you've got the Grinch head all done. Squeeze them to make them shaped how you like. And you're going to grab your slipper. And you're just going to use your yarn needle to sew it on. And you're done. I hope you've enjoyed this pattern. Please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel and enjoy.